Is Mom here?
No, she's gone out, but look what I brought home from school.
Wow, what is it?
It's a telephone. I just made it in class today. Want to try it?
Sure, in a minute, okay, Kim? Is there anything to eat in the house?
Well, maybe.
Hey, open up! I'm hungry! Venus calling Earth. Do you read me, Earth?
Hey, this thing really works. I read you loud and clear, Captain.
Good, then open up, will you? I'm starving.
Aw, he's got no sense of adventure. I wonder why we can hear our voices with these.
Simple. Our voices are sound waves that travel along the string, and they make the bottom of the cup vibrate, you see?
So we can hear it.
Sure, it's like when you throw a stone in the water, it makes waves. Well, the human voice is the same. It makes sound waves in the air.
Hey, since when did you get so smart?
Aw, we just learned all about it in physics.
How does a telephone work then?
We haven't gotten that far yet.
Hey, why don't we ask Jeannie? Hi, kids. Want to hear about my old friend, Alexander Graham Bell? Whee!
Alexander Graham Bell?
That's right. Didn't you know it was he who invented the telephone? I'll tell you the whole story. On your mark, get set, go! This is the first telephone that Bell ever made. And here's the inventor himself, Alexander Graham Bell. He was born in Edinburgh, Scotland in 1847. His father was a famous professor of diction. But listen to the way his son is talking. Hey, what are you doing? You're a grown boy. You shouldn't be talking baby talk.
Baby talk? Oh no, I'm learning to pronounce sounds exactly. My father's been teaching me.
Oh, I see. But it still sounds like baby talk to me.
Now see here. Diction is a serious science.
Oh, his father.
Hello there, Alexander.
His father is analyzing the pronunciation of sounds to try to help the deaf learn to speak.
I'll have to leave for London very soon. Continue with your studies, son. I may need you with me before long.
I will, Father. I have a better understanding of how sounds are formed already.
Excellent. I'm counting on you.
Not long after, the family followed Mr. Bell to London. Alexander was 19, and he was working with his father as an assistant. Hey, now what are you doing? Plankety plank, why don't you play some real music? What in the world are you doing?
Reconstructing the sounds of the human voice.
The voice? But what do you need the piano for? If you want a voice, use mine. Hold on to your hats, folks. La 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 la. Oh, 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 la.
That's not what I need.
It's not.
I want to reproduce vowel sounds.
Vowels? You mean A-E-I-O-U?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I think a vowel is made up of several sounds with different frequencies. Therefore, we should be able to reconstruct a vowel by mixing sounds together. Do you understand, Jeannie?
Sure. Very interesting. And probably a completely new discovery, huh?
I'm hoping so.
Wow! Hooray! Hooray! A real live scientific breakthrough!
I'm seeing a university professor about it today.
Alexander Graham Bell, though only 19 years old, we are honored to present you with the Grand Prize for Science. Oh. You won! Why do you look so unhappy?
Disaster! A professor in Germany named Helmholtz has already written a book on the same subject.
Oh, no! Now that is really discouraging. Coming up with a scientific breakthrough isn't all that easy, is it?
Yes, it's too bad someone thought of it before I did, but it proves that my idea was worthwhile. I'll read this and continue my study of sounds and the human voice.
That's the spirit, and I'll help you too. We started reading the book, but unfortunately, it was in German.
Huh? Would you look this word up?
Oh, okay, Mr. Bell.
I've got another one for you.
Hold on, I'll be right with you. From that moment on, my life wasn't my own anymore. I was a translator. Day after day, my nose was stuck in the dictionary.
This one as well.
You think maybe you could look it up yourself for once?
Oh, I'm sorry, Jeannie.
Mr. Bell, let's take a little break, okay?
I want to finish it quickly. Come on, Jeannie, we're almost there.
We are? Then let's go!
At long last, we've done it.
I hope you learned a lot of interesting things, at least.
Absolutely nothing.
What? Huh? You didn't find anything and you're still pushing ahead?
Of course. In fact, that book stirred my own imagination.
What are you doing with that gadget?
That gadget is a tuning fork.
Oh, great! I could use a little tune-up. A 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a... Hey, look, they vibrate too. Stop! Stop! That one too! Oh, what a strange sensation. But why did mine begin vibrating as well?
Because it began to resonate.
Resonate?
Yes, if you take two tuning forks of the same frequency and then strike one of them, the other will vibrate too. You can also make a tuning fork resonate by sending a vibration through it with an electromagnet. To transmit a vibration to a tuning fork with an electrical system, you must be able to make it vibrate from a distance, like a telegraph.
Oh, that's right.
And if you make tuning forks resonate, that are of different frequencies, you could send a whole range of sounds high and low. You could even send music from one city to another. Do you realize it would be the world's first harmonic telegraph?
Gave up his attempts to reconstruct the human voice, but the book by Helmholtz gave him a much more interesting idea. Little by little, his study of the harmonic telegraph would lead him to the invention of the telephone. For the time being, he continued to work for his father, while conducting his own research in his spare time. But then he became seriously ill and was in danger of developing tuberculosis. Worried about their son's health, Bell's parents decided to leave England. We're now in Ontario, Canada. The air is pure and clean here, and Bell gradually recovers. He's now a respected university professor. And one day...
Allow me to introduce myself, Mr. Bell.
This is Thomas Sanders, a businessman from Salem, just outside Boston.
I've heard a great deal about your research, sir. There are many deaf children where I come from, including my own son. It's my hope that you'll agree to come and help them.
But I'd have to resign my post at the university, sir. I have my own research to continue here.
I want to found a school for the non-hearing and the non-speaking, and I think you'd be of invaluable assistance in teaching them how to communicate.
I see.
While continuing your research, of course.
What are you going to do?
I've decided to go, Jeannie.
Right on, Mr. Bell.
Alexander, welcome to your new home. Whatever you need, my boy, just ask.
Thank you very much, sir.
A nice, quiet place to work. It's perfect, and he'll have more time to devote to his research. But he found something else to make him happy.
Yes, come in.
Excuse me, Alexander, but I wanted you to meet Mr. Hubert's daughter, Mabel.
I'm delighted to make your acquaintance, Mr. Bell.
Is anything wrong, Professor?
No.
Oh, my.
Mabel came down with scarlet fever as a child, and it left her permanently deaf, I'm afraid. Take good care of her. I leave her in your hands.
Why, yes, of course.
Why, he's fallen head over heels in love with her. Yoo-hoo, Mr. Bell.
What do you want, Jeannie?
Hey, snap out of it. Everybody's looking at you.
Oh, dear.
Oh, I'm afraid it's hopeless. Let him dream if that's what he wants to do. To represent the sound of certain instruments, Bell drew lines in the form of waves for his students.
You see, the shorter waves correspond to the higher sounds and the longer waves to the lower sounds. Do you understand that? Why, yes. What if I use the vibration of an electric current to transmit a sonic vibration? That would make it possible to transmit the human voice in an electric wire. All right, children. Class dismissed.
Oh, Mr.
Come back, Mr. Bell.
Bell gradually conceived the idea of the telephone.
It must be possible to transmit the human voice.
Johann Philipp Reis had already tried to make a telephone in 1861. He carved pieces of wood into the shape of an ear and used a membrane as an artificial eardrum. He attached a platinum stem to the other side of the membrane and wired the stem to a violin. The device was run on batteries. When someone spoke into the membrane, it produced variations in the electric current, and at the other end of the circuit, the needle in the electromagnet moved across the violin in rhythm with the movement of the membrane. Yow! Rice later developed a more perfected version of his device, but it still couldn't transmit the human voice.
Excuse me, Mr. Sanders.
Yes?
I think I'm on to something. I believe I found a way to transmit the human voice using an electric current.
Calm down, Professor. You're all in an uproar.
All that's required is to transform the variations of sound waves into variations of an electric current.
I'm sorry, Mr. Bell, but we shall deal with your telephone later on. For the moment, I want you to continue your research on the multiplex telegraph. And to that end, I've taken on Mr. Watson here as your assistant. Mr. Watson, meet Professor Graham Bell. I'm counting on the two of you to perfect the multiplex telegraph as quickly as possible.
Yes, sir.
With the multiplex telegraph, Bell was trying to send several messages at the same time using a single cable. Mr. Sanders was financing the research in the hope of one day making a commercial success of it. He hired Thomas Watson to help Bell with his work. Oh, it's so hot today. Those two won't quit for anything. They're bound to come up with something.
Everything's ready. Good.
Even though he was working on Mr. Sanders' projects, Bell never abandoned his idea of a telephone.
Oh, it's sweltering in here. Watson,
Check the receiver again.
Right.
This one's working. And this one.
Mr. Bell,
What is it?
the third receiver isn't working.
The blade must be twisted. Watson, see if the steel needle is stuck.
Right, I'm on my way.
Something's wrong, that's for sure. Ah, it's stuck all right. It's never going to work.
Huh? Watson must be causing the vibration from downstairs. Watson, what have you been doing?
Huh? Nothing, I was just...
No, I'm not angry with you. Just tell me. A sound. I heard a sound upstairs. What did you do? Now I see what happened. You induced current.
The term induced current sounds complicated, but it's actually very simple. When a magnet vibrates inside a coil, we induce an electric current in the coil by induction, and that current is called an induced electric current. Well, normally the steel needle hovers about the electromagnet, but on this device, it stuck to the electromagnet and became magnetized. When Watson tried to lift it back into position, he triggered an induced current in the two coils. And this current ran to the other end of the circuit.
Thank you, my dear Watson. Thanks to you, it's all clear at last. By using a variable electric current, we should be able to transmit the complex sounds of the voice.
And there you are! Bell had resolved a major problem and was now able to start building his first telephone. Rice's system could reproduce the frequency of sounds, but not their intensity. And the human voice changes in intensity constantly. That was why Bell had to use a variable electric current to be able to accurately transmit the human voice.
I'm sure success is near at hand.
It's going to work, I can feel it.
Shall we go on together then?
Oh, yes, of course.
The voice causes the membrane to vibrate, the current is transmitted to the coil and sent to the receiver. Remember the first telephone I showed you? Bell perfected it much further. He attached a needle under the membrane and immersed it in a liquid which conducted the current. The variations of intensity in the sound were reflected in variations of intensity in the electric current. And finally, the historic day arrived, March 10th, 1876.
Jeannie, be careful. You're bothering me. Oh, the sulfuric acid. Mr. Watson, come here a moment. I need you. Watson, come here. I've spilled the sulfuric acid. Come, quickly.
I heard his voice. I heard it. It works, Mr. Bell. We've done it.
Watson, what's going on down there? Why are you shouting?
I heard you, sir. I heard your voice in the receiver.
What? You heard me? Watson, you're absolutely certain you heard me?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, the telephone works!
Mr. Bell, can you hear me?
Victory! And Bell didn't stop there. He later obtained patents for a multitude of other inventions as well. Believe it or not, he was only 28 years old when he invented the telephone. But just 2 hours after he registered his discovery, another inventor applied for the same patent. His name was Elisha Gray, and his system worked every bit as well as Bell's did. Bell's marriage to Mabel added a sentimental note to a brilliant scientific achievement. Later, Bell purchased the patent for the granular microphone invented by Thomas Edison and further perfected his telephone. Bell devoted a large part of his life to helping handicapped children. This is Anne Sullivan, the teacher of Helen Keller, who was blind, deaf, and mute.
Helen tells me she can sense the immensity of the waterfall. The air's vibration is being transmitted to her body.
Helen, my child, I knew this would happen. That's why I brought you here. I'm very happy for you.
That's all? Oh. That was a great story, and now I can understand how a telephone works. But what I liked best was that Mr. Bell helped deaf children.
Me too. Hey, our Visiaphone would be a fantastic help to people who are deaf, wouldn't it?
They could talk directly to one another. The Visiophone's screen is tailor-made to transmit their sign language.
That's right. Mr. Bell would be happy to know how far communication systems have come.
You sure would.